What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
And LeVon Maynard.
Hey, welcome to the show.
And special guest, Gabe. So Mr. Davis from CISA.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me onto the show. Very happy to be here. As he stated, Gabriel Davis from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
So awesome! Thank you for coming in to the podcast. So this is the Wednesday discussion episode, but it's like a hybrid, right? So we're not only going to be discussing a topic, but we'll also be talking to Mr. Davis about his job, his background, things of that nature. So definitely going to be an exciting episode. And without further ado, I give it to you, Mr. Davis.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, audience. Very happy to be here. So as previously stated, from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, a little bit about my background. I'm a proud graduate of a historically Black college and university, Savannah State University, down in Savannah, Georgia. Go Tigers. Upon graduating, I did a few years in the Army as a signal officer, and that's where I got my passion for everything networking and cybersecurity. And doing that for a few years, gained some certifications, got a lot of experience, met a host of wonderful people, moved on to do some federal work at the Department of Homeland Security, particularly the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
All right, that's what's up. So when it comes to your transition, so why from signal officer to cyber?
So a lot of it was, personal reasons, right? Everybody knows that the military is a very taxing occupation, if I could put it that way. But it was just time to move on to another challenge, other tasks. Again, I cannot ask for more from the military from the time that I spent there. Learned a lot, met a lot of wonderful people, some of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life, some of the best people I've ever met in my life in the military. Got to see the world and experience a lot of different things. But it was just time to move on to another challenge and another opportunity. And CISA provided that to me. I enjoyed reading about the mission that they were undertaking, and I thought that would be a great place for me to bring my expertise and experience.
No, that's awesome. So before we move on to a day in a life at CISA, ask you, what was your first cert? So everybody has a first, right? So it's like the first kiss.
So that would be Network Plus back in 2014.
Oh, there it is. That's okay. So yeah, now we're talking, right? That's my bread and butter. So that was my first as well. So I can appreciate that. So if you can take us through kind of like a day in the life at CISA, like how you do what you do. Okay,
so I'm going to start from the top and work my way down, if that's all right.
No, absolutely.
So CISA has a very broad mission. Our motto is defend today, secure tomorrow. And what that has to do with, that's about those threats that we face in the digital and physical world, man-made, technological, natural. And obviously these are pretty complex. What we're seeing though is day by day that these threat actors and these vulnerabilities and all of these different risks, they're evolving. They're becoming more diverse. They're becoming more prolific. When we were talking about the Internet of Things, everything from your microwave to your refrigerator, your doorbell, your HVAC, all has an IP address connected to the internet at some point. As we see the expansion of the cybersecurity landscape, we realize that we need to do more as a nation to make sure that we're providing the appropriate security to the citizens of the United States, our key stakeholders, state, local, tribal, territorial governments, federal entities, and private organizations as well. Moving right along into the cybersecurity division where I work at CISA. We are particularly focused in my work, particularly focused at looking at vulnerabilities, both physical and cyber, vulnerabilities, and how they are attributed to specific devices and their prevalence across the network. What we're trying to ensure that we're doing as part of my work, we're trying to get to the vulnerabilities before threat actors can get to them. There are different groups within CISA that have many different functions. And when people hear about cybersecurity, cyber actions, they immediately think, keyboard smashing, red team versus blue team, fighting in cyberspace. And there is that does exist. But I would say that is not the big picture. The big picture is eliminating vulnerabilities before they can be compromised. Prevention and mitigation and resilience is where we should be operating primarily.
Okay, no, that's awesome. So I like the proactive approach versus reactive, because we talk about that every week, how we're so behind the ball, or at least the bigger picture, right? Like it seems as though everybody has more time to hack than they have time to secure. So that's definitely, I appreciate that initiative. So to kind of follow up, what if someone wanted to pretty much be in a position like yours? What would be the I guess the first step, and what would be the type of experience they would need to fulfill a role such as yours at CISA?
That's a very interesting question, right? I'm a firm believer in not having a standard background to achieve your goal. And I say that wholeheartedly, in that, I'm not necessarily, I don't have a cyber background, so to speak. My undergraduate degree is in mathematics. So I transitioned into the field because it interested me. I saw that it provided great opportunities, and it's something I wanted to do. With that being said, if you have a non-STEM background, that doesn't mean that you're unqualified to participate in this field. In fact, I would encourage you, if this is your place of interest, to pursue it. And I say that because not only when we think about diversity, it's not necessarily a diversity of people and how they look and their experiences that plays into it, but also a diversity of thought. We need to make sure that when we get into these groups, we're not all coming from the same background with the same training and the same experiences, because now all we've created is an echo chamber. And we haven't truly created a diverse environment because everyone's thinking the same way. And as we're seeing in life right now, especially in the cybersecurity realm, we are dealing with a lot of different types of compromises, threat actors, and different personnel who are trying to bring harm to the nation's infrastructure and our networks. So what we need people to think about things that maybe we haven't thought about them previously. So if someone listening right now is saying to themselves, I really would like to work for CISA one day, or I want to get into the cybersecurity field, I would say to start learning more. Take the time out to learn the basics. Maybe get a certification or two. Learn about what is going on in the field. Become well-versed in the activities that are occurring. I would put less credence on whether or not you have the appropriate degree program that matches what we assume to be the typical cybersecurity professional.
That's definitely interesting. Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, Gabe, that's good to hear, man, because I know Ryan has talked about how people have reached out to him from all different types of backgrounds, trying to get into the cyber game. Like he's had people that have been lawyers, you know what I mean? People that just don't have the same type of like what you're talking about, come from a STEM program or something like that. So it's good to hear somebody that's in the know, that's in an area that deals with what we talk about, say, yeah, we want the diverse thought. We don't want the echo chamber. You know what I mean? That's awesome. That's good to hear.
Absolutely. And again, this isn't, filler. I'm not saying this because it sounds good. This is something that I experience day to day when I'm working with different personnel. We're working across different groups. Cybersecurity is a team effort. Director Easterly made that comment on Twitter very recently as we put out a recent CA on water and wastewater. That was an effort between the EPA, the NSA, FBI, and CISA. So again, there's different aspects. There's a lot of different moving parts there. And as people are saying to themselves, EPA, why is the EPA involved? Again, diversity of thought, diversity of effort. We need to make sure that we're thinking about this holistically, because cyber affects us all in very different ways. And if you think about the EPA, talking about wastewater, I would want them to be in that conversation, right? To ensure that we're providing the appropriate information, the appropriate facts, and mitigation strategies to empower, not necessarily to empower, state, local, private, federal entities to find themselves in a secure environment.
Yeah, definitely. So yes. So for those who are listening, like, don't be intimidated. Like, you see a lot of people like, oh, I don't know how to get into cyber if I'm really interested. Well, I mean, you can bring your unique experience and your qualifications to the table as well. And it's only going to expand from here, right? Like, cyber is only going to get bigger, especially with the threats that we now see and can project for the future, which I do want to talk about later on in the conversation about what you see on the radar coming up. But before we go into specifically the Biden administration signing the Cybersecurity Act into law, the K-12 Cybersecurity Act that directs CISA to study cybersecurity risks related to schools and develop recommendations as well as toolkits to help educators. So this article came from ZDNet. But before we jump in that, does anybody else have any background questions before we move along? Take your silence as a no.
No, he covered it. He covered it pretty good. No, it was good.
Yeah, he did. He covered it very well. I'm trying to think of anything like off top of the dome, but I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, I think it's very cool to see somebody like Gabriel come from like a military background, not focused centralized on cybersecurity, but actually moving into that field and moving into like a pretty substantial company or a company organization as CISA. Is well known and well respected, and I think I have a lot of respect for Gabriel for making that transition and landing in that position as well. So I think that's a really really important and very applause worthy like accomplishment, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It goes into what we talk about, from week to week. Like, we want to talk about HBCUs. We want to talk about the STEM programs that bring them in to the field and what have you. And then now we have a prime example of how it works, like the diversity. Like, I'm not saying every industry is on the diversity tip, but I see cyber is booming. Like, hopefully in the years to come, we won't just be 7%. Like I always say, we'll be 70%. It'll be diversity on the other side.
But maybe I could ask this real quick too. Just okay. I think you guys kind of touched on it earlier, but as far as you see Gabriel in your maybe in your day-to-day, do you feel like is there a good representation of people of color at CISA? Do you feel like maybe it can be a little bit more? Maybe we need to put a little bit more effort in as far as people of color making I guess a step forward into that cybersecurity field and maybe landing that CISA position somewhere.
You know what? I'm going to take a note from our director Easterly, and say not enough. Mm-hmm. Right? She was recently asked at a CBS interview about diversity and having more women in the field, which is another place where
that's a big one, yeah.
Where we need to do better in diversifying our workforce. And I'm going to say not enough. Right? The specific numbers I would say are I not only do I not know the specific numbers, I would say that they're not as important as building the team in such a way that we don't necessarily have to count anymore, right? Because that's the intent. The intent is to get to a place where now I don't need to know the statistics. It's I feel represented. I feel like I belong. And
right. But
to your point, I feel like I belong every day at CISA.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. That's a really good that's a good point to make as well. And that's that you feel that you belong and that you're not excluded from conversations because people think that maybe you don't know what you're talking about or that you don't look like us, so maybe we shouldn't bring up this topic to Gabriel. But I think that's really important that you feel that way, and I think that's important feeling to have at a job that you're not being excluded. Everything, inclusion is a big part of the company I work for as well. So I think it's something that we need to keep note of and make sure that we're conscious of that and that we're being respectful to other people.
Absolutely. I will credit CISA, unlike any other organization, in that I have seen the effort that goes into doing what's necessary organizationally to create that type of environment, right? As an organization, we can't hold CISA accountable for every individual action. I don't think that's fair in any organization for an individual's point of view or their action in the workplace. I think creating the right environments are important. And I feel that CISA has done that, has at least put the effort forward, and it's not just lip service.
Excellent.
That's awesome. All right. So moving along into the article. So this is a ZDNet article written by Jonathan Gregg. It dropped on the 12th. It was pretty timely. So this is when we were booking you, it actually popped up. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. It gives us a good pivot point to discuss. So the bipartisan bill that passed, which there aren't many bipartisan bills that are passing right now, deals with cybersecurity experts working the K-12 Cybersecurity Act that is supposed to give them a good assessment of the threat environment as well as tools to mitigate the threats. It also states that there are hundreds of cyber attacks against schools, especially post. I can't really say post-pandemic, right? Because we're still going through it, but in the midst of the pandemic, things are not getting better in that regard. So I shared the article with you. I'm sure you're already abreast of the conversation that's taking place. What are your thoughts?
So, in terms of the pandemic, right? It's safe to say that we've increased the amount of remote work in the entire nation. More people are using their internet-connected devices to do more things throughout the pandemic, which in turn, increases our risk exposure. With that being said, I appreciate what this law is attempting to do by directing some resources at a specific issue. What I will say, though, to my state and local partners that are listening right now, CISA has already been taking these actions on, even in the time that I've been there. So one of the key roles at CISA is to be the nation's risk advisor, right? And to provide, that consolidated vulnerability, threat, and impact information to all of its stakeholders, which include, as I stated, state, local, tribal, territorial governments, even those that are less mature than some of the others, right? We tailor that information by looking at the specific locality, municipality, and ensuring that it's something that they can implement. We wouldn't necessarily provide the same information that we would, to LA County, that we would to, Washington County in Ohio or something like that. They're different places. They're different parts of the country. There are different risk exposures, and there's different problems. There's different personnel that work there. There's different financial expenditures, which is a huge deal when it comes to implementing cybersecurity efforts. I'm a firm believer that you can't buy your way out of risk. There has to be cultural change within your organization that will have the greatest impact when it comes to reducing your risk in an organization. With that being said, to this, again, state, local, tribal, territorial, listeners, if your entity is not signed up for CISA's no-cost services, I would encourage you to do that at CISA.gov and to sign up for things like cyber hygiene, which provides vulnerability scanning on your networks. And we do that for federal civilian executive branch agencies. We do that for state, local, tribal, territorial governments. We also do that for private critical infrastructure organizations. So again, if your entity falls within the 55 national critical functions or the 16 critical infrastructure sectors, I would highly encourage you to visit CISA.gov and look into cyber hygiene and some of the other products that CISA offers at no cost to the user, because we're a federal agency that's here to advise those on their risk exposure, vulnerability exposure, threat actor information, and ensure that we're just providing a safer environment for everyone in our cyber community.
No, that's awesome, man. That's a good advertisement, because even in the article it stated that there were some concerns about districts or school, I should say school districts that are a little bit, I don't want to say the word poor, but they have less funds to expend on such resources. But you stated that this is free. It's a free service. All they have to do is go to the website to find out what their left and right limits are for asking for help.
Absolutely.
So I think that's awesome.
Highly encourage them to do that. As a part of the service, you'll receive regular scanning of your network when you provide that information to CISA. You'll receive regular scanning. If there is a new disclosure of a vulnerability, you'll be one of the first to know when we know, because we're constantly doing the scanning. So you'll be effectively have some of the same resources that we provide some of our larger federal agencies. And if that sounds like a good deal, it really is. It's supposed to sound like a good deal if you're
right.
A local government, to say, man, I could have these resources that the federal government is allocating to me. All I have to do is sign up, and all you have to do is sign up. It is no cost.
No, that's awesome. So with that being said, with you guys, having the ability to kind of see the bigger picture, right? So that way you can share this information, these resources with these schools to better protect them. What is one of the bigger threats on your radar right now?
So I don't want to get into threats particularly. That's outside of my scope, right?
I got you.
I'm work more on the vulnerability side.
Okay.
So for a specific threat conversation, I unfortunately wouldn't be able to give you a lot of information on that. I would have to defer you to maybe some of the law enforcement agencies, within the government.
Gotcha.
But on the vulnerability side, what we're seeing, kind of like I said before, is just prevalence of vulnerable devices that are existing just on the open internet. So one of the other initiatives that we have at CISA right now is Get Your Stuff Off Search. And what that initiative is doing is drawing attention to the fact that if I were to go into one of the open source searching tools, like Shodan, Census, Thinkful, I could very easily find, devices that I should not be able to see on the open internet from an external scan. But we're seeing that. We're seeing tens of thousands of these devices. And, I'm kind of a story that I could share with you. So when I used to work a lot with my dad as a younger child, or I shouldn't say as a child, as a younger man. As a young man, I used to work with my dad a lot. And we'd always have a lot of tools, and he'd always give me a blanket and tell me to cover the tools up. And today, right now, I understand very, very, wholeheartedly why he was doing that. And he used to always say, you can't steal what you can't see. And that is the premise behind Get Your Stuff Off Search. I don't know that you're hosting a vulnerable device at this IP address. How will I compromise it?
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
We have to be very cognizant of the fact that a lot of these compromises, these crimes, are crimes of convenience. There's someone who found some proof of concept code on the internet, and now they want to test it out on somebody. Right. And that's not the end all be all, right? That there are specific threat actors that we need to be aware of. But at the same time, do you want to be the test case for somebody who is trying to figure out how to do it? Or do you want to be the victim of a threat actor? I would say no. Simple way to do that, Get your stuff off search.
No, that's a great tip, especially for those people who don't have the robust services, right? They can't necessarily hire a CISA or have a team, but just maybe you have a private business or something like that. Like that's a good rule of thumb. And it also goes into your home, right? Because everybody's home is quote unquote smart now, and I'm sure I'm also. I'm sure it's a Roomba or something in my house that people can see, and I'm just not doing a good job of the defense. And I'm in cyber. It is an effort. However, like LeVon tells me all the time, like MFA, MFA everything, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like I don't feel like going to get a text to do this, to do that, to do that. 100% right.
If it offers,
take it.
Everyone out there that's listening, if you have a device that offers multi-factor authentication, use it.
Right. Don't gas LeVon up too much though.
Hey, that is
I want no trouble.
Direct advice. If you have multi-factor authentication available to you, utilize it, especially on any device that has access to other devices, like your smartphone that would have account information on it. Definitely utilize that multi-factor authentication.
Yeah,
definitely.
See, Ryan? See? Yeah, look.
Come from everybody. I'm getting from left and right.
Right.
If you don't want to invite me back now.
I was gonna say, does that help you soak it in now, Ryan? You okay?
I do it. I do it. I just complain every time.
Yeah.
But and my test case is different, right? Because I'm overseas. So anytime I'm VPNing, sometimes I'm not VPNing from the same spot. So it's always trying to make sure I'm who I am, right? So I get a lot of text messages to prove my identity. I'm just like, MFA. But I mean, even so, it's weird, right? So back when I was just hardware, when I just built PCs and things of that nature, you're always apt to do it at work, right? The people who pay you the money, the place where you feel the most pride to do the work. You're like, I get job satisfaction from doing this. And then when you get home, you have nothing but spare parts in your garage and unfinished projects because you're like, I don't do work in my home. So I think the same thing goes with a lot of people when it comes to cyber. Like I'm all apt to protect the network, right? The DODIN or the AFGIG or whatever I'm working on at the time. The JRSS stack, if that's still a thing, I'm not sure. But when I get home, it's just like, my kids have a new device. Do I feel like telling them the importance of securing this device and telling them to have a strong password, or do I want to watch Squid Game?
Right.
But you have to have that proactive approach, right? Because then it stops me from getting swatted. It stops somebody from taking my home over, and then now my lights are cutting on and off, or the doorbell won't stop ringing, and things of that nature. So I mean, it goes the full gamut, whether you're doing it at home or you're doing it for your business. Cyber defense should be a proactive approach.
Absolutely. I mean, so another analogy for you, right? Say you have your windows wide open. Someone's walking down the street, walking down the sidewalk, and they stop on the sidewalk and they just stand in front of your window and they look in your house. That's not illegal, right? They're on the sidewalk and your window is open. Whose fault is it that they can see inside of your home, right? If you didn't want them to see, you'd close your window.
Right.
So, and that's how we have to approach these things. You would not be comfortable with someone looking inside of your home, just anyone off the street. This is the exact same concept. We should not feel comfortable with our devices being visible to just anyone with an internet connection. In the case of your home, right, someone has to be geographically located where your home is. In terms of your internet facing devices, it could be any of the 7 billion people that are out there that decide, maybe I just want to mess with Ryan or LeVon or Shannon because I'm bored.
Right, absolutely. So it's definitely a good rule of thumb. So if you're listening, start securing your devices. There's lots of steps that we won't get into right now, but I think that'd be an interesting conversation. Maybe I'll do that on Ask a CISP, where I talk about how to do MAC addressing and things of that nature, like just to secure your devices, take them off of your visible network. So that's definitely interesting. I appreciate that.
And if you are interested, again, CISA.gov has that information posted, has a lot of great information for anyone from the individual user up to, large organizations. If you're out there listening, and you're looking for more resources, more tools to put in your kit, CISA offers a dearth of information on how to address all of these issues that we're seeing. And if you're listening and you're saying, man, that Gabe guy sounds like he's got it all figured out, he's so smart, I assure you, there are more intelligent people at CISA than I am that are writing these products, and that can provide you even more detailed expertise on how to make sure that you're not the next victim.
Definitely, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely check out the website. Definitely, and we'll go into your personal plugs at the end. So like definitely check out what Gabe has going on. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I think this is definitely an interesting conversation. But I kind of want to squeeze a little bit of Friday in here since we got you on, right? So
right.
You're a listener and whatnot, and just for everybody behind the scenes, right? I'm Arabian Standard Time. He is EST. I think we have Mountain and we have Pacific all on the same call. So we're stretching it right now.
Oh, yeah.
We're stretching it right now. But I appreciate everybody for showing up. So just real quick, throughout the week, we're going to talk about the Missouri prosecutor vowing to get at a hacker of a public website, which I don't. It's a case of people not understanding cyber, and we definitely want to go into great detail about that one. It seems as though they're attacking the person who found a vulnerability and then just told them about it before disclosing it for them to fix it. But now they're on a witch hunt for this individual. So we'll get into that. That'll be followed by Homeland Security, just talking about how to better protect yourself, because the article actually says Homeland Security warns of cyber attacks intended to kill people. So we touched on this. If it wasn't last week, it was the week before, about the infant passing away due to the ransomware attack on a hospital. So this is definitely an initiative that the government is definitely vested in, and they can see in the future some very risky behavior that could lead to quote unquote kinetic attacks, things of that nature. Like, what if somebody's attached to life support and you take out the power? Or what if, in this case, the infant needed to be monitored and the monitors were not working? So, cyber definitely has some ramifications on people's lives. We'll also talk to LeVon. He saw some risky tech out there. We got some robotic dogs with guns on their backs. So we'll talk about that as well. Just a little bit of future Skynet that may be upon us. But before we get into all that stuff throughout the week, I definitely wanted to pick Gabe's brain about things such as like what are you doing to unwind? What are you doing to perhaps sharpen your skills and vulnerabilities? And what are you watching? So,
okay, so so to unwind, right? That's a tough one, right? Because it's one of those jobs where you can't leave it, at work, especially since my work is where I am always in, right? Since most of the country right now is working from home,
Gotcha.
So it's sometimes difficult to unplug, especially when we're dealing with events that sometimes don't operate during business hours. So typically what I attempt to do, right, is I just try to occupy my mind with something else, light reading, maybe I'll catch, Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Maybe since everybody else in the world is watching it, maybe I should too. Spending time with those around me, people I love, family, playing outside, going for a run. I'm doing my best to make sure I'm maximizing the amount of time, the additional time that I don't spend, commuting, right? Those 2 hours a day, 2+ hours for a lot of people, where you're not sitting in the car and you're trapped, in traffic. Or now,
Right.
once work is over, I can immediately go into wind down mode. I'm attempting to do that. Keeping your skills sharp is as you all here know, is a constant battle. The landscape changes every day. You wake up and there's a new change, there's a new vulnerability, there's a new threat. And the challenge is, how do you stay ahead of vulnerabilities and threats? The short, unpopular answer is that might not be possible, which is why we need to build in mitigation and resilience. Everything isn't preventable, but we'll mitigate things that we can. And the things that we can't mitigate, we're going to make sure we have that resilience built in so we can recover from, a negative outcome, from a compromise, having encrypted backups off the network, things like that, making sure that we're storing privileged accounts, segmenting privileged accounts, make sure we're segmenting, doing network segmentation of different departments within one organization. Different things that we can do that if something does happen, we are able to respond in such a way that maybe they got this little piece, but they didn't get everything. And taking that tiered approach to security and not putting all of our eggs into, we just got to prevent it from happening. It'll never happen to us. The short answer is it's going to happen to everyone at some point. It's a matter of time. Someone wants to think of it like a lock on your door. Locks are made to keep people out, but someone really wants to come in, your lock's not going to stop them.
Definitely. So, I mean, that's great. Great conversation. I mean, we threw some business continuity, some disaster preparedness, Squid Game.
Got a little bit of everything, right?
Got a little bit of everything in there. So it's interesting that you brought up work from home. So seeing as I got a taste of it, right? So I was on the East Coast when the pandemic broke out. And I was down to 25% manning at one point. So I would show up to work like maybe twice a month. And I felt so much more productive. Like I felt like I was getting so much more done because I didn't have, like you have the water cooler talk and then you have meetings upon meetings upon meetings. A lot of that was mitigated. But what I did find issue with was shutting it off. I didn't have, like you said, my commute was an hour and a half. So I'd have that hour and a half of traffic, battling traffic to get back up to northern Florida as time to start to unwind, listen to podcasts, listen to music, things of that nature. Do you have anything that you can share with the audience of how you can decompress if you can? Like, because I know it's an issue for everybody, but now I go back to work again, right? So now I have that commute. It's only 12 minutes as opposed to an hour and a half. Because I'm a captive audience, right? But how do you shut the work brain off, so to speak?
I would say to set time limits, right? Say at this time I'm going to stop, right? Unless I'm going to use a military term or phrase, life, limb, or eyesight. Unless that's going on, it'll be there for you tomorrow. There's always going to be work tomorrow. Gotcha. And make sure that when you're unplugging, you're backing away, and you're truly unplugging, closing the computer, taking your ID with you, saying that's enough for today. If there's a true emergency, someone's going to contact me directly. If you don't do that, you'll always be finding things that you could do. I'll just do it. I'll just do it now. I'll just do it now. Which in the beginning, that sounds great because you're being hyper productive, but at what cost? There's two things in life that are irreplaceable. That's your time and yourself. So if you're not cherishing and if you're not cherishing those two things and maximizing them to those that deserve it, including yourself, right? Then you are, in my opinion, you're doing it wrong.
That's excellent word at the end. Like, so for all those listening, like read and heed these words, because everybody falls in that trap, right? Like, I'll do a little bit more, but again, you can't get your time back. So that's definitely a good word to conclude this. Before we do, anything from Shannon or LeVon?
No, this was amazing, man. I love this. I don't want to necessarily call it an interview, but this this day in the life, you know what I mean, type thing we did with Gabe here, man. Really appreciate your time, and I very enjoyable. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to steal that day in a life. That's going to probably be the thumbnail. So all rights are reserved for the other side of the Firewall podcast. Patent pending. What about you, LeVon?
Oh, I think Shannon stole my lines right there. I think that's pretty much what I had to say. Right? No, it's been a great segment here, just to get a perspective from Gabe here, just to see him being in a big organization like that actually handles these incidents on a regular basis, and just kind of hearing from him. Like I understand that, I know the feeling as well as being unable to unplug, especially being in a remote state that we are in at the moment. It's hard to kind of disconnect, and things happen at all different hours of the day, and so it's hard to pull yourself away. Especially I find myself sometimes missing meals, without thinking. We get kind of wrapped up in some things, but this has been a very interesting conversation. It's good to hear it, and I'm glad that we had a chance to speak with Gabe today, and hopefully, we'll get some more conversations in the future. Maybe we'll bring back on if he has the time, or if we have some opportunities.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I extend this to everybody who we have on the show. If your schedule ever meets it, if you ever want to come on and talk about anything in particular, let's say there's a new initiative you want to discuss, or perhaps you have something like a side project or something you want to discuss, definitely reach out to us. Again, I'm captive audience, right? So I'm here. I don't have much going on, so I would love to jump on that to completely defeating what we just talked about unplugging, because I don't do that very well. But yeah, anytime, it's open invitation. We greatly appreciate you and your organization for allowing you to be on the show. Before we do our plugs, do you have any of your own?
Absolutely. I'm glad you extended the opportunity. So all those listening, it is Cybersecurity Month, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, I should say. We're here at CISA. We're encouraging everyone to be cyber smart. If you'd like more information on that, again, please go to CISA.gov, and you can learn about all of the different initiatives and projects that we're undertaking here. Right now, we're on week 3, or going into week 3, or I should say, where we're exploring, experiencing, and sharing about cybersecurity careers and ways that you can join CISA. At CISA, ways to join the initiative of cybersecurity education. So again, please go to CISA.gov and learn more about Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And also, while you're there, explore the bad practices webpage that CISA has. It talks about some of the things that you shouldn't do, not necessarily, kind of a different take on, best practices, where we outline the things you need to be doing. We're highlighting the big no-nos that we're seeing, in the landscape, and encouraging people to not to do these things. And I'll just plug a couple just right off the bat. If you're using the same password for multiple different accounts, you're probably doing it wrong. Maybe it's easier to do that, but if it's easier for you, that means it's easier for the bad guys too. Also, if you're heavy on social media and you see, a picture or, a survey that asks you, what's your middle name and your birthday, and that's your, superhero name.
Right.
I don't think that that's the intent behind the survey. Maybe you should be skeptical about that, seeing that those are typically, the types of validation questions that you'll get when you're trying to validate your account when you lose your password. So being skeptical of things that are out there, especially on social media, being skeptical of social engineering, ensuring that you're not reusing passwords, old passwords, and doing your best to protect yourself and those around you. The very last one, visit stopransomware.gov. And it talks about all the different ransomware variants that are out there, and the different initiatives that we're undertaking in the federal government to do our best to provide ready and reliable service to all of the nation. So I know I gave a lot of URLs there, but if you want to remember, CISA.gov, stopransomware.gov.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll post them in the description as well. So that way they'll be able to, copy and paste it into their browser. But yeah, this is an excellent episode. I greatly appreciate it. As always, thank you, Shannon. Thank you, LeVon. Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate you and your time, as well as your organization, for allowing you to spend time with us. Thanks for staying up.
Oh yeah,
because I know our timing is crazy, right? But yeah, great conversation. I hope to have you on again. Please hit up the website www.theothersideofthefirewall.com so you get to all our social medias. I'm starting to pare those down a little bit based upon feedback. So leave us your feedback. Please like, share, subscribe. Let us know how you felt about this conversation. If you want to see more of these, this is the plan going forward for Wednesdays. It won't be every Wednesday, but I would like to integrate our discussion with a special guest, because I think we get a lot of bang for our buck by doing so. You can hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can hit me up on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter. And you, LeVon?
Hit me up on the Twitters at LeVon Maynard.
There it is. And do you have a personal one that you want to share, or are you good with what you've already shared, Mr. Davis?
So I am not. I guess I'm like not one of those social media people. So I don't have Twitter.
My man.
There you go.
My man. There you go.
But, so if you do run across me on LinkedIn, I am there.
There you go. So now, you everybody heard that. It's better to be that way to be secure, right? But I got to show the sale.
Right. So I'm not telling people don't use social media. It is a personal preference that I don't find social media be incredibly valuable for my day-to-day activities. And that's just me. If social media is how you make your money or how you communicate with family and friends, I know that it's a big way of how a lot of my family communicates, right? By all means, use it safely, like you would anything else, like you would use a car safely.
There you go. So with that, definitely be safe, stay secure, continue to watch the show.